Hey, welcome. Quick introduction here to the league I'll be playing. I'm going to play a league with Infect. I haven't played a lot with this deck yet. It's going to be one of my first, well, I've done a couple of leagues by now, but like 2 months ago I hadn't ever touched the deck. Of course played a lot against it, so I know how it plays, just not how to play it. I've definitely made my fair share of mistakes already with the deck, like playing a Daze and then not having a Forest in play for my Invigorate was definitely the biggest one. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward tempo-ish deck that's a bit more combo-y than Delver, but I think I can pretty much lean on my experience with Delver for playing this. For the deck build I have here in front of me is a bit different. I've been iterating it a bit over time and trying some cards. The card that interested me in trying, in fact, was Paladin class, one of the new cards that I think should have application in our format somewhere. In a creature deck that can really make use of the defense grid aspect of this card. It's like a 1 mana weak defense grid, but also makes use of the +1/+1 ability to just pump the creatures and make good use of that. And I think Infect is one of the best shells I could find for that. There's a chance at some point there's a meta where this could see play in Elves, as it's just a good answer to Plague Engineer that stops your opponent from interacting efficiently, and the final part of the class, which gives you double strike and +1/+1 for each other attacking creature, can definitely also come up. So I wanted to try that in a deck, and I landed on Infect, played a couple of leagues, and I liked what it was doing in this deck, and I pretty much liked the deck in general. That being said, I don't think it's great positioned at the moment, and that's not because of the reasons people were suggesting. Like, there's a lot of 1 mana removal spell, and I agree that the more 1 mana removal spell in the format, the worse it is for Infect. But I haven't really been struggling with that. I noticed that against these blue removal decks, I can pretty much just take a longer game and just get an opportunity to get in there with a Nexus and finish the job anyway. A bigger issue for me has been cards like Force of Vigor, which has just easily been able to take out the England Nexus and something like a Paladin class or my Sylvan Library or stuff like that. That's actually been a card that's been quite tough on me. I think we're playing 12 Infect creatures. In my previous builds I also had a Mavinda, the 2/3 fly that can basically flashback Invigorate from your graveyard once per turn. It was fine, it never stood out to me as a great card. It was good to have another creature in the deck, but in this build I replaced it with a Prismatic Ending. So I had this ending as the 5th removal spell on my sideboard, but I didn't really like the Mavinda and decided I want to try the ending in the main board. It's mostly there just to answer Chalice of the Voids and occasionally get rid of a blocker, but being only a 1-off is not super efficient at just dealing with creatures. You really want to try to dig for it when there's really an issue coming up. But as a 1-off, yeah, it's just not much. I'm just not sure what to do with this spot. I was thinking about having second Paladin class in the main board, but I think that's too much, since there are definitely matchups where this doesn't do anything. But I like having the 1-off. It's mostly there to help with the Blue-Red Delver matchup and with the Jeskai Saga decks and against Bond control. It just makes it a lot harder for them to interact on your turn. And while defense grid usually means that they just can't do anything with their mana and just interact once, that's not what Paladin class does, but it makes it very hard for them to interact more than once through a Daze or a post-board Foster Storm or anything like that. So it really helps, and decks can really struggle to answer it. And if they're slowing down to keep multiple pieces of interaction up, that's when the levels of Paladin class, like the Anthem effect or even the double strike effect, can really come in. It also makes it a lot more likely that you can win a late game with Noble Hierarch, since when it gets double strike from it, that's when your pump effects can actually do the damage when you don't have poison counters. Other than that, the biggest change I made to the list I started with, since I basically just net decked it and added the ending Paladin class to the first version, is that I'm trying Snakeskin Veil. I think I like Snakeskin Veil over the. I want to try at least Snakeskin Veil over the Vines of Fastwood. I've seen 2 to 4 Vines of Fastwood in almost every Infect list, and I know that people really like it. But I'm not the big of a fan of it. I've been playing it for every league up till now, and it always just underperformed, even against the decks where I would really like it. They've just been removing my creatures in that turn, which means it's like, yeah, okay, I counter one of it, but I'm not getting anything off of it. And the 2 green to get the pump spell effect off of it has just been too much most of the time. I just don't think it's a 2021 Legacy card. 2 mana for this effect just felt way too clunky. So I've been looking to replace this, and just in this league I'm gonna try Snakeskin Veil. It's a card I was interested in when it was spoiled, also for Infect. And if you're playing this because your opponent is going to interact with you with 1 mana spells, you probably have to play it in your opponent's turn, since they should remove your non-nexus creatures on their turn, or at the end of your turn, but usually it's better, especially with stuff like Paladin class and stuff, just that they do it on their turn, especially since Prismatic Ending is also a sorcery that's seen a lot of play. They're just increasingly likely to interact on their turn, and on their turn the Vines of Fastwood isn't actually that useful. I mean, it counters it, that's good, that's why it's there. But getting this 1+1 counter on the creature actually makes it way easier to just value out the game without committing more removal spells against control decks. So I really want to try it there. We probably sometimes really want the +4 pump effect, but I'm just gonna see how much that comes up and how bad it feels. I mean, Vines of Fastwood and Berserk, if you have 3 green mana open, it kills. That's not something this does, but I want to see what it does for the deck. So I'm gonna try these. The sideboard, I have a bunch of one-offs in here. The deck used to the list I saw had multiple Force of Vigors, multiple Endurances. I haven't been that high on those. I think Force of Vigor lost a lot of application with Prismatic Ending and entering these decks. And I think Ending just covers quite a bit of what you want to hit with Vigor. Not everything, but I think making room and by going down to 1 Vigor really helps. I have the Caracas in my sideboard, which I'm basically always boarding in together with my Source Explosives and Prismatic Endings, especially against the decks like Delver, where it can bounce Ragavan, but also just provide more white sources. Since we only have 2 Savannas, there's always a risk of getting Wasteland off of our white, while they're also removal on Noble Hierarch. I don't think it happens too much, but I like the Caracas just as a good card in general against decks like Depths and Reanimator, while also providing the additional value for our white removal spells against Ragavan decks especially. Then we have the One of Endurance. I've not been liking it. I think it's a very bad graveyard piece of graveyard interaction. Well, very bad. It's not an ideal piece of graveyard interaction against fast decks, since you just have to pitch more cards to it. But it does what you need it to do when you need it. But the 3 mana version has also just been not great. Sometimes you want an additional creature, and I've been bringing it in more because I wanted something not in my deck, and just it did something. Then it being something that actually proactively was good for me in the matchup. So the verdict is still out on it from me, but it's probably fine to have 1. I wouldn't want multiples. And with the room I got from that, I added 1 Carpet of Flowers, just to support the white sideboard cards and be better against the very popular Delver deck. And you'll see if I play against it that I'll be bringing in a lot of cards against Delver. Mainly these 10. And that's because I just think you have to be very willing to play a reactive game against them. They're gonna have a lot of removal spells, but if we can get rid of their creatures and we can just shave a lot on our own pump spells, so we also just become a creature deck, I think that you have a decent shot there. And I've been winning most of my matchups against the Delver deck thus far, but I haven't played that much yet, so can't really conclude too much of it. That's the deck I'm going to be playing. I'll probably make some mistakes, and I still struggle through the lines with this deck since I'm just not used to playing it. Well, I usually have an idea of what I should do. Actually, coming to the right line sometimes takes a bit, and it's basically the same if I pick up a Storm deck now. I know how the deck works, I can play it, but I just stumble through the lines a bit. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this league, and let me know if there's some feedback you have for me, and if you enjoyed seeing the deck. So, cheers.